Norman Osborn first appeared in Marvel Comics back in 1964 with Amazing Spiderman issue 14 as the Green Goblin. And rumor has it we may just be seeing the return of the Green Goblin in Spiderman No Way Home. Willem Dafoe is back, we think. Our fingers are crossed. It's pretty much confirmed. I don't know. The worst kept secret ever. So to get ready for some more Goblin shenanigans that are coming up, I'm Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 10 darkest things Norman Osborn, aka Green Goblin, has done. Also, just a heads up, some of these really are not for the faint of heart. You have been warned, my friends. Let's get dark. Kicking off the list at number 10, Dog Days. Norman's father was an inventor. He was the grandson of Alton Osborn, and that's where all of his wealth originally came from. But after all these inventions were stolen one day, the company was forced to close its doors, and the family had to live on scraps. A total change-up. Norman's father was cruel to him as a child, so he would drink, shout, just all around not a great supportive parent in any way, so Norman inherited some of that pain and agony. Norman actually got rid of the family dog, saying that it was just one less mouth to feed. That was his way of contributing to the family problem. It's pretty dark. So young Norman was troubled, scared, and determined to regain the wealth for his family. But did you really have to get rid of the dog? I mean, I feel like your dad could have left. Dogs are nothing but pure. This guy was always a villain, even when he was young. Number 9, Flash Thompson. In Peter Parker's Spider-Man issue 45, Norman rendezvous with Flash Thompson right after he went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. See, Norman offered Flash a job. He started to turn his life around, but then in a Game of Thrones-like fashion, Norman pours so much whiskey into his mouth forcefully, which already sounds so horrible, but then when Flash gets behind the wheel of an Osborn truck, it only gets worse. He ends up crashing right into Midtown High where Peter was working. Flash survived, but all that brain damage from the crash left him in a coma. Of all the ways to get Peter's attention, I mean, come on Norman, that's just twisted. And before we continue on with this dark video, if you guys want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, maybe some positivity in this video wouldn't hurt. A thumbs up is definitely a step in the right direction. Thank you so much for your support. Let's get right back into this cruel list. Number 8, Tortured Peter. We look now into Revenge of the Green Goblin storyline, where Norman sends Peter a little care package. Peter receives toothpaste, which is actually laced with hallucinogenics, the same hallucinogenics that make up the Goblin formula, so already this isn't looking too promising. And to make emotions more unstable, Peter also got a CD. Now, I know what you're thinking, no, it was not Big Shiny Tunes, although I wish it was. Rather, it had Uncle Ben's music with subliminal messages trickled into the notes. Now, after this point, Peter is weak, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So the Goblin almost gets Peter on his side, the dark side, but the webhead was finally able to break free. Norman was happy. I mean, to him, this was still a win. He got that close to breaking Peter. Well, guess we ought to keep trying. Number 7, a helping hand. When a security guard working for Norman needed help, he reached out. I mean, yeah, he reached out to his boss. Makes total sense, especially someone with the brains like Norman. I'm sure he can help out. The security guard's wife was sick, and the doctors didn't really know exactly what the problem was. She was just only getting worse with time. Tick-tock, Norman, let's figure this thing out. Osborn agreed to take a look and to see if he could figure out the issue, and he did. He figured out the problem, but the advice that he gave on how to handle her was the exact opposite of what she needed. So she got way worse after this point. It got so bad that she had to be rushed to the hospital, put on a breathing machine, where she fell into a coma. This guy truly is the most evil. Number 6, stole Peter and MJ's baby. Yeah, you heard me, pretty dark. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 418, MJ goes into labor, but Peter is nowhere to be seen, of course, because he's too busy saving the city, doing the usual superhero gig. Now the doctor is a little sketchy. He's smoking the whole time. There's a shadowy figure in the background just lurking about by the door while MJ is trying to have a kid. It's just a weird feeling. There's weird vibes in the air. Exactly as I planned, says this shadowy figure. Now the baby was born healthy and the doctor carted away, but this nurse, Allison Mongrain, took the newborn to this shadowy figure, who of course, as you would now have guessed, is Norman Osborn. I mean, just steal Peter's phone. I mean, a baby? You don't have to steal a baby. What the f*** is wrong with you, dude? Number 5, Seward Trainer. Making his first appearance in Spider-Man issue 54 back in 1995, Seward was a genetics expert, part of the High Evolutionary. He was originally sent to spy on Miles Warren, but Scryer, an agent of Norman's, caught Seward stealing Warren's files, so Scryer then blackmailed Seward and threatened to spill the beans. So after that point, Seward had to serve Scryer's needs. Classic. Now, so far, Norman is barely involved in the scheme, but a much greater plan has now begun. Norman used him to mess with the cloning results, so now Ben Reilly was now considered the real Spider-Man, and Peter was now considered the clone. This plan worked really well. They both basically switched lives, but as for Trainer's fate, well, he died at the hands of Norman in a dark alley. All that just to be left for dead. Number 4, Ben Reilly. Okay, since we're on the topic of Ben Reilly, we have to talk about how exactly he met his fate. Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 149, and after he takes on the helm of the Spider-Man, Peter retired, like I just said. But later on, Ben was hit with a gas bomb and his spider sense was put on hold because of it. Now after this, the Goblin is able to beat him horribly, and on top of that, he literally adds insult to injury, explaining that Ben is in fact the clone. So Reilly ends up sacrificing his own life, taking Norman's glider right to the back and impales him, but he did it to save the real Spider-Man. He encouraged Peter as well to get back to it. Poor Ben Reilly. To find out you're the clone was bad enough, but then to make the hard choice to save Peter after that? What a day. Number 3, buried Aunt May alive. Yeah. When Norman Osborn kidnapped innocent churchgoers, Spider-Man of course came to save the day. They had an epic brawl, and it ended with Norman being arrested and taken to Rikers Island. Peter then returned home to Aunt May and MJ, he healed up, and the next day he resumes his normal life teaching at school. However, this figure was watching him the whole time. Always these figures, hidden figures in the background. So Peter then gets a phone call and he hears about his Uncle Ben's gravestone being vandalized. So he goes to take a closer look at the situation, and then he gets a call from a random voice saying that they know his big secret and that they know Aunt May. So they're going after Aunt May, things are bad. So Peter goes to Rikers to make sure Norman's still there and he's not behind it, but Norman is behind it. Norman actually tells Peter that one villain knows his secret identity. Now he's toying with Spider-Man, what a time. He even presents Peter with a riddle that May is down among the dead men. So eventually he solves this riddle with the previous knowledge of Ben's gravestone being hit up, and that's where he finds out that Aunt May was buried alive next to Uncle Ben. With oxygen, I gotta add that. She was buried with oxygen, she's fine. I gotta admit, the psychological trauma alone that Norman inflicts upon others, he's committed. Super evil, but definitely committed. Number 2, faked Aunt May's death. A classic prank. Just kidding, this is actually really horrible. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 400, appropriately titled A Death in the Family, the issue starts with high stakes. Aunt May is in the hospital, Peter rushes in, and thankfully she's okay. She's awake. She came out of her coma, and a teary-eyed Peter is ready to explain everything to her. So much has happened, he says, and I want to know everything, May responds. It starts out quite sweet, and it ends up with Norman flipping Peter's life upside down. Aunt May comes home, spends some time with Peter, and then passes away with Peter by her side. It's really, really emotional. She tells him how proud she is of Peter and that she always knew he was Spider-Man. What a ride. But after the grieving process and the sleepless nights, Osborn lets Peter know that Aunt May is in fact very much alive, and that other lady was just a brilliant actress all this time. So many emotions. And finally, coming in at number 1, you guessed it, the night Gwen Stacy died. Of course I gotta bring this up, this is arguably one of the worst things to ever happen to Peter, and seeing it on the big screen made my eyes wet. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield nailed this scene. Now, it of course stems from the comics. In the Amazing Spider-Man 121, the Green Goblin took Gwen in order to draw the attention of Spider-Man. This was after Norman had got his memory back, so now it's time to take the spider and get back on that Goblin glider. He kidnapped Gwen, and of course it worked. Spider-Man came to play, but when Norman tossed Gwen off the top of the bridge, Peter tried to rely on his webs to save his love. Thing is, the webs did catch her, but the whiplash in doing so caused her neck to break. Perhaps one of the darkest comic book moments of all time. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this rather dark list. You made it to the end through all those tears and heartaches, so now I gotta ask you, comment down below any other type of lists you want to see going forward. We love your suggestions and we'll try to get around to most of them. I've been your curly-headed host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time on Top 10 Nerd. Peace.